We just started the second round of the NBA playoffs last night. We got a really big matchup between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Denver Nuggets. A lot of people were really excited to see this matchup. What
Yeah.
are your thoughts on game one from the Timberwolves perspective?
Yeah, just to support what you said about us being excited for this matchup, they both split the series 2-2 this year. And it was a lot of good indicators for what we could expect going on in this series. And for a Minnesota standpoint, you got to feel good. You haven't lost a game yet in the playoffs. First off, you stole home court advantage right away in the first game. And I think you did it pretty convincingly. If I'm looking at them, I'm feeling very good with the intensity we came out with. They jumped out to a big lead, which is a common thing for the Denver Nuggets this year. In the postseason, they've been getting behind a lot in their first series against the Lakers, and they had the ability to just walk them down and come back. And they did do it this game, but I think the difference is the Timberwolves have the ability to match what the Nuggets can do to a specific standpoint offensively. We talked about their half court offense, and it sometimes cannot be the best, but I think they have a high ceiling to where they can function it very well simply because of the Denver Nuggets and the holes that they provide, especially in the paint. We saw the Lakers really take advantage of that. And when you think of the paint, you think about Anthony Edwards, his ability to get to the paint. You obviously have Rudy Gobert that's going to eat up a lot of space in there. But when you're able to draw that help from whoever's guarding him, let's say if it's like a Jokic or somebody like that, you're opening that pass to Gobert. If you're able to bring Jokic away from the rim, or you got a lot of things on the weak side you can attack with. So I think they have many ways to where they can actually attack Denver on the offensive end, and they have the size to kind of match up with them well. And that's one of the things. The big teams are going to be able to bully the smaller teams and take advantages with the matchups that they have. But once they're going up against each other, then I think that's where you're really going to see a lot of challenges, and you're going to have to see a lot of chess moves come to play for these teams. I think they have the ability to attack them on offense. Not only that, the ability on defense. We know how great and tenacious this Minnesota Timberwolves team is on the defensive end. And I think the biggest key is they have bodies to throw at Jokic, they have bodies to throw at Murray. Anthony Edwards made a statement out the gate coming out guarding Jamal Murray, and I think he did a really good job. And you just have the luxury to just switch JD McDaniels on to Jamal Murray, one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. So, especially with Jamal coming off of that calf injury and that being kind of irritated, I think he was able to eventually get it going. But you have multiple guys you can throw at him. You obviously have Cat who can guard Jokic, and then you'll have Gobert lurking, guarding Aaron Gordon, who you would rather take those spot up threes than being able to get those lobs where Gobert could come over and play rim protector. So I just think they have multiple options on both ends of the floor. And lastly, it's just Anthony Edwards, man. Like having him on your team is such a luxury. I think Anthony Edwards in between game is the difference because you have those advantages in the paint. You also have guys who can spot up and shoot. I think of Nas Reed and you think of Nikhil Alexander Walker, some great spot up shooters, but Ant is able to really manipulate that in between game. So it's just all over the court. You see a lot of opportunities, but I wouldn't sleep on the Nuggets for sure. This is going to be a fun series.
Oh yeah, it's definitely going to be a fun series. Those of you that have been watching our videos, if you've watched us talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves, my concerns about them in the playoffs, I don't have many because they have played really good throughout this whole season. Defensively, they are the best team in the NBA. So I expected what I saw from them on the defensive end, but one of my concerns about them has been them in the half court offense. The Timberwolves, they really came out and they surprised me on the offensive end. They looked pretty good on the offensive end. Early on in this game, they got out to a really good lead and they were taking advantage of miscues by the Denver Nuggets. They were generating pretty good looks. Anthony Edwards, his ability to, like you mentioned, get into the mid range and the shots he was hitting, his ability to score at all three levels, get into the basket, mid range, and knocking down threes. He was just amazing this game. And he just continues to rise in terms of, getting to that superstar level. Defensively, I was really impressed by them again, as I have this whole entire season. Like you mentioned, they just match up very well with the Denver Nuggets. They have a lot of long athletic players that can match up with Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. Let me get your thoughts on the Nuggets in this game, Trevon. What did you see from the Nuggets offensively and defensively throughout the course of this game?
I think a good takeaway is we got the lead going into the half. I think that's the first time this whole playoffs that they were able to get the lead going into halftime. So I think it's a matter of just kind of realizing, like, look, guys, we can still do what we do best. We can still do what we do consistently. We were able to close the gap. Let's not make it so hard on ourselves to where we have to try to come back all the time. Let's actually try to get off to a good start, sustain some level of consistency on offense and defensive effort. I think that's the only thing I ever hear Michael Malone really criticizes effort. Even in wins, he's talking about effort. He's talking about that's not what we need to do to win a championship. It kind of reminds me of Dan Hurley for the UConn Huskies. It's not the same level of intensity. It's a lot more chill and, things that NBA coaches need to be because you're coaching men, you're not coaching teenage boys. So it's a different approach to it. But just knowing what really matters, especially in the playoffs. And I think that's the only thing that he really ever criticizes. Like, even when Murray's struggling, the last series, you hear him talking about, I'm just trying to find ways to get you open. He's not concerned about the offensive end. He's only concerned about defense and effort. And I think as long as they do those things, they're going to be able to hang in the series because we did mention, or what you mentioned, the Timberwolves half court offense can struggle. And the Nuggets, one thing about them, they're going to stick with it. They're going to stick with the plan. They're going to go to their guys. You're not going to stop Jokic. They put Gobert on Jokic, but he was still getting his jump hooks over him. And that's probably your best bet as far as a one-on-one defender. But I think they still have the support from their guys. I think Michael Porter can go off at any moment. KCP is another good two-way player. I think that Aaron Gordon is going to be a very key defensive guy. I think it's really a question of who is he going to guard. But I think just the main thing for them is like, look, guys, if we can get off to a better start, we have advantages in areas that we like. The Timberwolves are a very much get in your grill type perimeter defense team, and they can funnel you to the paint. I think one of the biggest advantages of the Nuggets is they don't have guys that's just walking the ball down or dribbling the air out of the ball. They have Jokic and Murray with their two-man game where I think they can go with a lot more consistently throughout the game. I know they like to do that at the end of games. I don't think you're going to have to really rely on just guys handling the ball. You can get Jokic the ball to initiate the offense. You can get Michael Porter coming off of down screens, and same thing with KCP and other guys. So I think that as long as they stick to their game, they'll be able to find opportunities to score. But I think we're going to really find out between Jokic and Anthony Edwards who's got the most stamina, because I can see a little bit of tiredness from both players. Like, they're going to have
Yeah.
to run it through Jokic offensively, and he's still going to have to show up on the defensive end. And same thing for Anthony Edwards. They're just both going to have to reach that level of, second gear or second wind that a lot of people talk about in sports, because they are the answers for their team. But I'm feeling good. I feel there's some room for improvement, like still confident in our abilities if I'm the Nuggets.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And I still believe this series is going to be a long series. I believe that it's going to be a really good series, and the Denver Nuggets are going to come out with a lot more energy and effort to start the game, to assert themselves and get game two and tie it up before they have
Mhm.
to go back to Minnesota. Because if they go down 0-2 and have to go back to Minnesota, it's just going to make it that much harder